Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time. This is episode number 82. I'm your host, Byron. Alongside me via StreamYard and live on YouTube, and available next day on all available podcasts, Google, Spotify, Apple, you name it, etc. It'll be out there next day. But alongside me is former NHL player and former minor league player, Reed Lowe. They call you the enforcer. So let's get to it. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I can't complain. Got to go coach some junior hockey later tonight. So just got finished with the work day. Had my radio show that I do here in St. Louis called Losey's Lounge on 590 The Fan. So yeah, just been trying to get connected with you for a while now. We finally got it done. So
Finally, yes. Touche. Finally, after a long while. So, let's begin there. You say you got a radio show. Obviously, that's what you're doing nowadays. But for me, I'm trying to get there. How tough is it? Because I know you got to put in money, don't you, to get on? I know they pay you, but still, you got to have put a little bit of money into it, don't you, to keep your sponsors? Or does the station pay that? Because I'm trying to get on the radio myself.
yeah, so it's a little easier when you have a 10-year professional hockey career, probably, and I've been friends and done radio shows before. Back in 2008 and 2009, I did a 2-year stint with a guy named Jeremy Rutherford, who does the beat writing for the Athletic here in St. Louis with the Blues. And so I kind of been on the radio a lot. I get asked to do interviews on the radio and give just my opinions on different things going on in hockey and whatever. And so when an opportunity came up at the bar that we do it at, Top Shooters, I'm really good friends with the owner, and we went and talked with 590 The Fan, and we found some sponsors. He found some sponsors to pay them, and then I basically kind of go out and do my own thing with my sponsors. If I don't go and do sponsors, I don't get paid. If I find some sponsors that want to represent myself in the show, then we kind of go like that. It's there's different radio stations. There's 101 ESPN in St. Louis, which is a little bit different. It's more you're more a salary type person, and then there's different radio stations that are on some of the lower frequent FM stations or AM stations where you can buy some radio time and then go out there and kind of get your deal done. So I think it's just all kind of who you get with and what area of town you're in, and more than anything, who wants to listen to you? What do you have for a track record? You've got a podcast. How many subscribers do you have? How many followers do you have? What's your content like? Can they sell it and make money off of it? Those are the things that kind of go into, the media aspect of what we do.
Yeah, that's the one hard part about this is I don't have that many followers, just me, so it's pretty tough. The only ones I got on Twitter, as you see, is the ones that have done the podcast. It's very tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you gotta get sponsors, and that alone is tough here. I mean, you gotta go to these restaurants, talk to these people or bars, whatever, for sponsors, and none of them want to pay up. That's tough. I mean,
well, again, I think that it would, you got to just kind of earn your stripe. I earned my stripe with several thousand punches to the face. And so people watched me, people enjoyed what I did. So my commentary and my ability to kind of have the gift of gab, for lack of a better term, and do what I do on the radio and TV and wherever else is kind of what people want to do. They enjoy listening to it. And so, it's not an easy mold to break, but with perseverance and effort and heart and desire, you can do anything.
So how many players, since you've had the radio gig, how many have you interviewed or been a part of that have been on your show?
We've only been doing the show for 4 weeks, so it's more. I've got a gal that kind of works in the sport interviewing world. She worked for Tampa Bay Devil Rays. She's worked for the St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis Blues, Angela Sharp, and then my buddy who drives the show, Nate the Great. He's just been in radio his whole life, so we really haven't had many guests on. We just kind of get on there and talk about world, talk about sports, talk about what's going on, and enjoy the kind of the process doing it. As we start to kind of get into it more and more, I'll start to bring friends and former player friends and that kind of thing on either live or on the telephone. But right now we're just kind of getting our feet wet. Back in 2008, 2009, when I did my show with Jeremy Rutherford, we had most of the St. Louis Blues on. He was working for the local paper at the time, the Post-Dispatch. So he had access to the guys to come on, and I got a limousine company and a nice restaurant to come on as sponsors. So they would pick them up, take them out for dinner, and then they'd bring them over to the restaurant, to our bar, the same bar, Top Shooters. We did the place at the same time, and so they didn't have to drive. They got a nice meal out of it, and they got to hang out and enjoy it. So we haven't really got into the guest thing yet, but I'm sure we'll get there.
So, like you said, this is what you're doing now since you retired from the game radio. Before you decided to get into the broadcasting advent of the game, like on radio, did you ever think about like staying in the game, like scouting? I know you coach a little, but that's kids. But did you ever like think about coaching, like what former players do, like in the minors or the big leagues, or ever thought about announcing like on TV or something?
It's always been a thought there. Coaching at that high a level, like I coach at a junior level now, and I can't make everything. I own a liquor distribution company, and I do a lot of events and auctioneering and appearances. So I've got other stuff that I'm involved in, and it's very time consuming. And I actually was asked today if by one of my co-hosts if I would ever want to coach in the NHL, and it's a huge commitment. It's when you want to live that life, it's every breath, every waking minute. You don't think about anything else. You go hard, and that's why these coaches get paid $3 or $4, $5, $6 million a year in NFL and college. Sometimes it's upwards of $8 to $10 million a year. So, money's not like I don't chase money like that. So, but I also don't want to be so involved in something that I don't have the opportunity to have multiple things going. I've got some fairly decent ADD, so I need to have my mind bouncing in a few different areas. So, really not a thought. When I got out of hockey, I got right into the industrial and construction auction company, Ritchie Brothers Auctioneers. I worked there for 9 years, and then I worked at the local cat dealer in St. Louis, running their used equipment department for 3 years. And so this is just over the last 2 or 3 years, me kind of getting out there and getting back into this atmosphere of the game, and being a part of it. So really never had any aspirations of getting back into coaching and doing the traveling. When I was kind of doing the game, I got sent down to the minors my second last year. I broke my jaw. I was in the minor leagues. I was away from my family and my kids, and then I signed with Chicago Blackhawks, and I lived in a hotel for 8 months and was up and down with them in Norfolk, Virginia. We're in the American Hockey League, and so my taste of hockey in my mouth at the end of my hockey career was more probably disgruntled than it was anything. So really, you've got a short window, I think, when you get out of the game to get back into it in some atmosphere like that. And for me, it never really happened, but I'm happy with the way things have gone.
Now, you were known primarily as an enforcer. Now, I watched the game of hockey. I'm a fan. I'm still quite confused because I've heard of it before. I'm quite confused. What is an enforcer? What do they call you? Why do they call you guys that? What is that?
I think somebody that enforces some level of law, right? And the unwritten rule for a tough guy or a goon or whatever the word is you want to use for the hockey tough guy, or the guy that has to deal with the fighting aspect of it, is just you're kind of enforcing basically your own team law. Something happens on the ice, or if something needs to happen, there's a level of enforcement where you use physical force to intimidate and deter the other hockey teams to be doing things that are detrimental to your teammates. So, the enforcer probably roots from that atmosphere and that thought process, and I guess I would say.
Now, you're well known for twice having 50 minutes penalized in the game. I think that's some sort of record, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Do Do you remember who those teams were and why you got penalized so much? Did the refs just have it in for you? What was the deal with that? That's unheard of. 50 minutes? That's almost a whole freaking game.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any guy that ever played that has 2 games of 50 plus penalty minutes or more. I know that the record's 69. I know that I have 57 as second, and then I have 53, and I think there's another guy I think that has 55, and then another guy that has 53. So it's fourth, fifth, somewhere in there. But I'm not sure if any of those guys that did that did it twice. So I think my thought process is I'm the only one that's done it twice. The first game was against Calgary in 2002. I want to say it was in February. And Bob Boutner kind of suckered Doug Waite with a dirty hit. And so Joel Quinville put me and a few of the other tough guys out on the ice. And I took matters into my own hands and fought Bob Boutner. And then I fought Robin Regehr right after that. And so I didn't actually serve all those penalty minutes. I got several game misconduct penalties. I got instigator penalty. I got 10-minute misconduct for instigating. And then I had a fight against actually the now St. Louis Blues head coach, Craig Berube, in the first period. So the accumulation with the 3 fighting majors and the misconducts and the minor penalties came up to 57 minutes. And then my 53-minute was in Detroit. We were losing 11-2 again. Dougie was in the middle of something, doing something, and I just started another brawl against Knutsev, and so I just fought him, but I got a whole bunch of penalties. I think I got a record for most penalties in one shift with 9, and I got 53 minutes that night. So I wasn't the goal scorer that I wanted to be when I got to the NHL, but I guess it paid the bills, and it was what it was.
So you were 177th overall in 96 by the Blues. Do you think you went where you wanted to go in a draft? Did you want to go higher, lower? Did you get drafted where they told you were going to get drafted? How did that process work out?
Yeah, so first off, I was kind of a late bloomer because I was a 19-year-old rookie in the Western Hockey League. I played 2 years before that in the Saskatchewan Junior League, and so whenever I got there to the draft board, Central Scouting had me rated. I want to say it was 172nd. So, at the end of the day, for me, I was just happy to get drafted. I'd have been happy to get drafted in the first or the 9th round or anything in between. At that time, there was 9 rounds. I ended up going in the 7th to St. Louis. The draft was in 96. It was in St. Louis. The draft was. So I wasn't at the draft. And ironically, the draft was a Saturday that I got drafted in, and my birthday, my 20th birthday, was the day before, June 21st. So it was, what I would consider probably the best birthday present I've ever been given, although it was as much earned as it was a present. And so, yeah, I just think that I kind of went where I was supposed to go, and I ended up spending my overage year in Moose Jaw. I broke my tailbone that training camp, so I never got a chance to go to St. Louis. You look back at moments in time, I thought it was the end of the road for me, and it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I got another chance to spend another year in the Western Hockey League, which is probably the best place for me to be at the time, mature a little bit more. And then I got a nice contract from my agent who negotiated it, and started moving to the pro world. Spent 3 years in Worcester, Massachusetts. My rookie season in Worcester, I spent a couple months down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So yeah, it was pretty good. It was a great experience, and obviously extremely happy. Not everybody gets an opportunity to get drafted in the NHL, let alone, play 550 plus games and 250 plus games in the NHL and 550 plus in pro hockey. So the game is all I ever wanted to be a part of. It's all I ever wanted to do. Making the NHL was something that I believed in from an early age. And when I got the opportunity to do it, I just chased it. And when it came time for my skill and my skating ability to run out, I was lucky enough to have a guy pick on me. I beat the hell out of him. And the next thing you know, I just kept fighting and kept making a name for myself. And here we are today.
Now, do you remember obviously you were called up with the Blues after you were spending time in the minors. Do you remember your first game? Were you nervous? And do you remember your first goal and who it was off of?
Yeah, so my rookie season was 2000, and we had a 4-game road trip in Phoenix, and then out to the West Coast against San Jose, Anaheim, and LA. And I was a healthy scratch those 4 games. And then our home opener against Minnesota, when I got back, I got in the lineup. I fought Matt Johnson in my first shift against the Minnesota Wild, and then proceeded to get in 9 fights in my next 9 games. And I think if you look at hockeyfights.com, they have 9 fights in 9 games, 17 fights in 26 games. Then I ended up having 23 fights in 56 games that year. I was hungry, and I knew it was my role. I wanted to establish it. I wanted to show everybody that I was there, and I was planning on sticking around. My first goal was scored in my 9th game, I want to say, against Patrick Waugh in Colorado. So I was actually there's a video circulating around. It's kind of like a Patrick Waugh's highlights and bloopers, and I made the video of my first goal, so it was kind of cool.
That's a good way to start off. Patrick Waugh, come on. Yeah, that's a good way to start off your goal career.
It was cool.
So did you get your first goal? Do you at least get to keep a puck? I know baseball, they get to keep they like their first hit. They get to keep the baseball. Do you get to keep the puck?
Yeah. I got the puck. I gave it to my dad, so he's got it back in Canada.
There you go. I mean, that's saying something. What about Raw? Did you get for your first? I mean, I know he's a legend and he was on the way out. Did you get him to sign anything or something?
I didn't. I didn't really get a chance to,
Oh man, brutal.
Yeah.
Now, in all your fights that you've had, how many teeth have you lost?
They're all mine.
There you go. So you managed to say,
knock on wood.
There you go. Yeah. That nobody's been able to punch out your teeth. That you've been one knocking their teeth out.
Yeah, I don't know how many I knocked out, but I had more wins than I had losses, so that's good.
Now, is there a fight that you remember the most that you you went after the big guy? Is there one that you remember that you went after the big guy that you knew that you thought you couldn't take down, but you just had to take him down anyway?
I've been in so many fights, many memorable ones. I think if you just take a look at YouTube standards, the PJ Stock fight of mine was a pretty good one. I fought Scott Parker the night I scored my first goal, and he was a guy that always used to beat the hell out of me, but I at least survived that one that night and had a pretty good tilt against him, so that was kind of cool. And then I fought Bob Probert and had a good fight against Bob. So, Bob, even though Bob was long in the tooth and getting older in 2000, 2001, 2003, 2004, he beat the hell of a lot of guys, and I managed to survive. And we only fought the one time. So I was pretty happy that I didn't have to go after it multiple times in his prime like a lot of guys did.
So if you could rank your top 5 fights, what would be your top 5?
Oh, man. Obviously the PJ Stock one's probably one of my favorites. Then Scott Parker, then probably Bob Probert. Then I had a really good fight against Todd Vodorik one night. That was a good one. I have a couple in the minors that were pretty good too. I had a really good fight against Derek Bugart in 2006 in the exhibition season when I was in Chicago. That was a pretty one too. So, yeah, I fought everybody, man. Like in my era, there wasn't anybody that I didn't get a chance to twist with, except for Sandy McCarthy. I never fought Sandy, which Sandy at one point in time was without question the toughest guy in the league. He was a beast. So, but I only played against him one time, and we never ended up getting into it.
Now, what do you think about? Obviously, you were in enforcers. I already know the answer to this. I just want to get your take on it. To me, I don't know. Fighting, kind of, you guys do it for the drunken idiots there. I kind of get that, but do you think it honestly helps the game, fighting? I know it's been around for years, but I don't know. Fighting, I think you guys could just deal without it in the sport. I mean, I'm not one for it. I mean, maybe if somebody deserves it, yeah, I could see that, but I don't know. I just don't know. Do you think it's good for the game?
Yeah. In fact, I think that they're going the wrong way with it. I think that number one, the entertainment value is extraordinary. It's not just drunken idiots that we do it for. There's a lot of people that aren't drunk at the game that enjoy watching two guys in a fair fashion go after it. When one guy hits the ice or when one guy says he's done, the code has always been really legit in the NHL. It's never the tough guys that are the idiots out there, right? It's never the tough guy that's attacking one of the star players' heads and throwing elbows and doing the nasty stuff. And ever since they introduced the enforcer rule, injuries and concussions have gone through the roof. So the way that I look at it is the complete opposite of you. I think there is a very, very, very good reason for a guy like myself to fulfill and live that role. And another thing it does is I would have never made the NHL had I not had the opportunity to be an enforcer. And so it gave a small town Canadian kid an opportunity to live his dreams. And, there's kids out there that are good people and have the ability to go out there and fulfill a role in the game of hockey that's meaningful. You take a look at Sidney Crosby and how rough the game is on him comparatively speaking. When there was no instigator rule, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and those guys, and they never got touched. And now you see stars getting abused on the ice all the time because they've restricted fighting. And now those guys that are supposed to be the best players in the game are the ones getting hurt by little pissants out there that don't have any toughness and run around and tuck their visor into their self like Claude Lemieux does. So, I think they're going the wrong way with it. At the end of the day, it is what it is. I see fighting and going up in the NHL. The bigger boys are starting to get back into it. And I tell you what, I got a lot of teammates that are sure happy I was on the bench.
Do you think it's because of what happened with why they've downed it so bad is because of what happened to what happened with Todd Bertuzzi
again, I think when you take a look at that scenario with Todd Bertuzzi and Dominic Moore, or Steve Moore, sorry, not Dominic Moore, Steve Moore, that's cowardly. He attacked a guy from behind. That has nothing to do with an enforcer. And Todd Bertuzzi wasn't an enforcer; he was a dirty hockey player. So that the sad part is, yeah, you're probably right. There is a little bit that had to do with that, but it's the tough guy and the enforcer, the guy that doesn't do that kind of stuff, that is the one that ends up getting the bad name at the end of the day. And Todd Bertuzzi is a coward for what he did there. It's an absolute joke to grab a guy and punch him in the back of the head and then land on him and keep punching him. That's not anything an enforcer's ever done. I've never acted like that. I grabbed Bob Boutner and threw him up against the glass and he turtled and I punched him in the head then, but there was reason, for why that had happened. Moore fought a player or had a bad hit and then went out and fought the middleweight guy, Matt Cook, and beat his ass. And so everybody on the team was pissed because they didn't feel they got their retribution. And so, yeah, for me, that's the kind of stuff that shouldn't be in the game. Guys, and again, he got suspended for a long time and went through multiple court cases. So it doesn't really have anything to do with fighting or enforcers, to be quite honest.
So then how the hell was he able to still play? I know he's retired now, obviously, but how the hell was he still able to play? Honestly, because that was cowardly.
Yeah, that's the NHL.
When that happened.
That's Gary Bettman and his guys at the NHL level that allowed that. They put I don't know, I think he got suspended for most of the rest of the season and then more, I think 20 or 30 or 40 games into the next year. I don't remember exactly what it is, but he spent a lot of time out of the game of hockey. He lost several $1 million of his wealth in a lawsuit. So I guess, I don't really have too much of an opinion on it because I wasn't a part of the decision-making process, but I would say that, he paid his penalty and they said, come on back in. And, I think when you take a look at it, the emotions got boiled over. He made a mistake. I think he's genuine in his apology at his reinstatement hearing. And unfortunately, it's a black mark on the NHL. It's no different than Marty McSorley two-handing Donald Brashear in the head and knocking him out cold. Sometimes the emotions boil over. A lot of people would take a look at me and what I did in Calgary when I jumped on Bob Boutner and threw him around. And quite frankly, it could have been more of an issue if I would have hit him in the right place with any of my punches. So That's
Right.
just the game of hockey. That's how it works. That's how it happens. It's not ideal in a lot of time frames or wherever we're at. So at the end of the day, it kind of is what it is.
Now, what do you think will, because you have a couple of those guys today. I don't know if you would consider them dirty, whatever. I don't know. Enforcers, I don't know. Tom Wilson and the guy from Boston, what's his name? They call him the Rat.
Yeah, Marchand.
Yeah, Marchand. Do you see something like that with them? Because I'm hearing a lot of rep from a lot of people in the league, because I watch a lot of these networks and reporters. A lot of players don't like them too.
There's a lot of fans out there. Well, the fans of their own town like them. But for the most part, when you take a look at it, they're two of the more hated guys in hockey. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be guys that are, not the fan favorites in hockey. And when you take a look at Marchand, he's a hell of a hockey player. Like, he's in the top 5 of scoring in the National Hockey League. It's just, for him, some of his chippiness, and then for him, it's more like his stupidity, like licking guys, and just the different things that he does that are just kind of out of the realm of the game. Like, like when the whistle blows, you want to stand there and beak and chew and do whatever you got to do, but eventually let's get on, let's get the new players out there, and we're here to play hockey, not pretend we're in the WWE. So I think sometimes it gets a little much. As far as Tom Wilson, again, Tom Wilson's a hell of a hockey player. I just think that sometimes he doesn't have the greatest thought process when he's going to hit somebody, because some of the hits that he hits on guys are really dangerous. They're headshots. They're typically a back check, back crack type of hit. So in those scenarios, it's not the greatest. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that kind of is what it is.
Now, besides your first goal and your final goal in the AHL that you had, is there a goal that...
There's only one in between those.
Oh, really? You only had 3?
Yeah.
Ouch.
I scored 2 of them on Mike Dunham too. So I always tell Dunner that I had his number. 66% of my goals are against him.
There you go. Hey. Yeah, might as well, right? Yeah. Might as well make something out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers that question.
Listen, talking about goals with me is a very short story.
So that goes on to my next question. It says that I didn't realize, because this didn't tell me that you had 3 goals. So yeah, I'll get on to the next question.
I can confirm.
So my next question now then is,
I'm on podcast.
Hi.
That's my son. He wants to hang with us.
No problem. So now my next question to you is, okay, so let's talk a little about current nowadays. I'm sure you still follow it, because obviously you're in a radio gig. You know it. You still follow it. You talk about it. I want to talk about my Tampa Bay Lightning, because this is where I live, in this area over here. Do you believe that they can three-peat? I know it's hard to even two-peat like they did, but they managed to do it. Can they three-peat?
Well, I think as you look in today's day and age, and when it comes to sports, the repeat doesn't happen very often. The game, there's so many great athletes today. Young kids train at such a high level. There's private lessons, and these young kids have personal trainers and hockey coaches and mentors and all this other stuff that goes on. But the Tampa Bay Lightning are no joke. And one of my good buddies, Pat Maroon, plays on that team, St. Louis native. And he's got 3 cups in a row. So, obviously I'm a St. Louis Blues fan, so I'm hoping we win the cup. But it'd be kind of fun to watch Patty win 4 in a row. That'd be quite a feat, and a three-peat with Tampa Bay would be an interesting story, to say the least. So can they do it? Yeah, man, they're good. And Cooper's a hell of a coach. When you take a look at their lineup, they're deep. They work hard. Their best players are some of their hardest workers. They grind it out. They've got one of the best goaltenders in the league. They've got a solid defense. They've got a really balanced team, and they will all pull in the same direction. So that's a hell of a hockey team down there. And the nice part about the National Hockey League is anybody can do it. And typically you see those teams that are in that 4, 5, 6 to 9, 10, 11 that battle for those playoff spots for the last 2 or 3 weeks that aren't in the playoffs but are playing playoff hockey, because if they don't win their games, they're not even going to make the playoffs. Those are typically teams that have a better chance of doing something. But Tampa Bay got ousted after winning the President's Trophy a couple years ago in the first round, 4-0. I think that was 3 years ago, the year the Stanley Cup went through St. Louis. And they learned a lot that year. They came back and won the Cup, and then they came back and did it back to back. So you've got to right now, as far as I'm concerned, they're the champions. And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So until somebody beats the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't see why they won't win again.
Now, did you have, in your point in your career, I know it was vivid years that you had in the NHL. I think you had like 5 or 6 in the NHL. Any of your teams come close to making the playoffs? Did you ever have that cup of tea to play in the playoffs?
Never won a cup. But we did. My rookie season, we lost in the conference finals against Colorado, and they ended up beating in 2001, they ended up beating the New Jersey Devils, and that's the year Ray Bourque won the cup and retired. And then we were in the playoffs every year after that for my 4, 5. Well, I was in the NHL 5 seasons, but one of them was a lockout, so we never played. But all 4 years we made the playoffs. 2 years we lost in the first round. 2 years, 1 year we lost in the second round, and then 1 year we lost in the third round. So unfortunately for me, I never got a chance to play a playoff game. Which is a little bit of a regret, although it's out of my hands. I don't really have a lot of control over that because the coaches are the ones who decides it goes in the lineup. So it'd have been nice to taste what it was like to even be in the playoffs, but I got to travel with the team and practice with the guys, and I was on the team the whole year. So the guys were always really good with me and made me feel welcome, which was special because it was disheartening not to get the opportunity.
So what about All-Star games? I know obviously you had a short career. Obviously you weren't invited to it as a player, but did you ever get to go to it to watch an All-Star game and watch All-Star
No, I've never been. They typically don't invite guys unless you're on the team. I always said, though, when I was playing that they should invite the two, they should have like a fans drawing for the 2 toughest guys on either side, and they should start the game off. They should get in the starting lineup and or even in the skills competition and have a fight at center ice. I think the fans would absolutely love that. So it's not something that they're ever going to do because they're busy trying to get rid of fighting in hockey, not at it. So, but I always thought it'd be pretty cool to see something like that.
Now, what about outdoor games? Do you like that? Would you have liked to play outside in these these stadium games that they've had for years now that they've implemented?
I would love it. They weren't doing it when I played, but I'll tell you what, man. The one in Minnesota this year in Minneapolis with the St. Louis Blues, I'll tell you what, that was cold. A lot of friends.
Yeah, they didn't start that till what 2010, I think.
Yeah, 2009, I think, is when Pittsburgh and Buffalo did it at the football stadium there. But it was really cold in Minnesota this year. So I know the guys were freezing their butts off, and they wore the beach clothes instead of their suits to the rink, and just a really cool atmosphere. I love that they do we had one in St. Louis at Busch Stadium, the baseball stadium, and we had our Blues alumni played the Chicago Blackhawks alumni, and we all got to be involved in that. We all, obviously there's 40 some Blues alumni that live in St. Louis, so we all didn't get to play in the game. They brought a lot of the bigger stars back to come play in that game, but it was an unbelievable experience just to be a part of it, and we got to hang out in the dressing room with the guys and be a part of the game. So just a really cool experience. They're really cool for the fans, for the game of hockey. And I really think it's a positive thing that they have their stadium series now where they're not just doing the Winter Classic. They're doing more games outdoors because of how fun it is and how much the fans like it and what kind of attention it draws to the National Hockey League. I think it's a really good story, and I think they should continue.
So two-part question is I want to ask you now about the Olympics. We just had the men. They lost they don't get a medal. They lost in the quarterfinals, so they don't get a medal. The women, they won silver.
They lost to Canada.
They lost to Canada. Yep. I know you didn't get offered to go to Winter Olympics. How cool would that have been for you if you would have been offered to go play in the Winter Olympics for your country, Team Canada?
There's I never got an opportunity like the Olympics, the World Cup at the end of the hockey season, World Junior Championships, the under 18s, under 15s, under 16s. Only a dream, like it's almost as dreamy as being in the NHL to have the opportunity to don a jersey that's your Canadian flag would be one of the coolest things that I ever had the opportunity to do. I never really got the opportunity to do it. But I can only imagine how amazing that feeling is to go out there and to put everything on the line for your country and in a sporting event where everybody's watching, the entire world, the World Cup, all that. I love that hockey. I was extremely disappointed, but I understand why the NHL didn't participate this year, just with all the craziness with COVID and everything.
They only allowed minor leagues, right? Minor leaguers.
Yeah, there was a lot of the college kids and a lot of guys that were in Europe, that kind of thing that went over there. But the NHL made their decision, and it obviously hurt the Olympics. You look at Canada and US; they were knocked out early. They didn't get an opportunity to either of them win medals, and typically those guys are at least gold, silver, bronze level medalists. So again, I expect the NHL to be back in the Olympics next Olympics. It's just too bad it didn't work out this year. But again, with COVID and the craziness and how difficult it is right now just to try and keep things on the go in the NHL, I think it was a smart decision for them because they have to take consideration what's important, which is their league first. But hopefully we can get through all this BS and we can get on to the other side of things and start to get back to some normalcy in life. And we can see these guys back in the Olympics because it's the best hockey in the world watching the Olympics play.
Now, let me ask you this as a person who you obviously played the game and you're male. They don't have a women's hockey professional league. Would you one day
don't they have one up in Eastern Canada?
They do in Canada, but not in the U.S. I never heard of one in the U.S.
Yeah.
But if they did, would you?
I love watching women's hockey, especially now that they, the physicality. They used to call a lot of body checks. Now you're not allowed to actually body check in women's hockey, but I don't know if you watched that Canadian-U.S. game. There was some physical contact in that game, and that's what I love about it. I think it's fast. I think it's good hockey. Man, most of those girls are probably better hockey players than I was. Hey,
my question to you is: would you as a male, since there's no professional league here, as I know of in the U.S., would you care if a woman got drafted and actually played?
Well, Manon Rhéaume already played for the Tampa Bay Lightning. She's the only woman to ever play in an NHL actual NHL game. Haley Wickenheiser tried out for the Philadelphia Flyers. I know that. I'm trying to think of the girl's name off the U.S. team. She went and had some practices with the Mighty Ducks. Her last name's Knight. I can't think of her first name. I know that I don't know that was just a kind of a fun thing or if they were actually bringing her in. At the end of the day, the reality in the world is that a woman is not built the same as a man. And that doesn't necessarily mean that a woman can't compete. And I'm not going there, so everybody relax. I'm just saying that in the world, a man is built differently and has a different muscle mass and has a different body type that is more projected when men are trained at their highest level. It's why I'm not in agreement with what they've got going on in collegiate sports where they're letting men that want to identify as a woman race against women in swimming and race and in the javelins and the stuff that's not compete. And it's just an absolute farce. So at the end of the day, for me, men are men and women are women. And there's times when we can coexist in a profession. I just don't think it's in hockey because if you were to take the best men in the world and put them against the best female in the world in hockey and had the same rules, I think it's pretty obvious who would win that game.
Fair enough.
It's not fair to try and mix them together. Now, as far as a woman that grows up playing hockey and she's 6'4", 215, 220 pounds, and she's stacked and jacked, and she can compete with the men, and she wants to try out, and she gets the job because she's good enough to get the job, not because she's a woman, because she actually is better than somebody else.
Right.
Bring her on. Let's go. I don't have any issue with that. I just know that from a man-female perspective on how God made our bodies, we weren't supposed to compete against each other in hockey at the highest level. And again, like I said, Manon Marion played in goal. Haley Wickenheiser tried out. There's been some women that have come in and given it a whirl. I encourage any little girl growing up, if you think you can make the NHL, you give it your all and you rock and roll and you make it happen for yourself. I have no issue with that at all.
Did you see Kessel's wife making it?
I think it's a sister, isn't it?
Sister wife. I thought
she's on the U.S. Olympic team, right?
Yeah.
That's his sister.
Okay, sister. What I could see her making it then if she can do.
Hey,
I mean,
listen,
look at her brother.
Again, you're taking a woman that doesn't play in a league with hitting, and you're going to bring her into a league with hitting when you've grown up your whole life and you were never taught how to take a body check, or you were never taught to have that collision, and then all of a sudden you're just going to drop them into the NHL. That's going to be a challenge. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying there's some challenges that are posed there.
True. Very true. So let's get into a couple more questions before I let you go, because I know you got
about 4 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. I know you got a coach, so it's a couple minutes. We talked about your alumni that you're a part of. Do you still talk to them to this day? The alum, and how many of them helped you along in your career?
We're really special here in St. Louis. We've got our Blues alumni. There's over 40 guys that live in the city and raise their families in the city. And we've got our own alumni box down at Enterprise Center. We've got our own dressing room out at the new complex that they just built in Maryland Heights here in Missouri. So we're very, 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 very lucky. We also have a feeling and an understanding that, being a Blues player, a former Blues player, and wearing the note and being a part of the alumni is a privilege. And we give a lot back to the community. If you take a look over the last 20 years and see all the players that are, raised in St. Louis or born and raised in St. Louis, and have made it to the NHL and had significant NHL careers, the list is pretty healthy. When you just take a look at 2016, Matthew Tkachuk, Logan Brown, those guys, there was 5 kids off that AAA team that were drafted out of one team in Chesterfield, Missouri in the NHL draft. 5 kids were taken in the first round. There's countries that don't have 5 kids drafted in the NHL in the first round. So we take our hockey seriously here in St. Louis. Our Blues alumni loves to give back. We love to be a part of the community. We love to help hockey in the United States, Canada, anywhere. Our alumni went over to Slovakia. Pavel Demitra, one of my teammates, passed away in that Russian plane crash. We went over and played 3 exhibition games and raised a couple $100,000 for youth hockey in Slovakia in Pavel's name. So when you get the opportunity and the privilege to be a part of something as special as the St. Louis community and the St. Louis Blues, giving back, it's not even hard. It's something that you just want to do and you want to be a part of. So I'm no longer, but I was on the board of directors for the St. Louis Blues alumni for 10 years. I actually worked in the fundraising department for our Blues alumni for 3 years. So I'm heavily involved. I go to a lot of the games. I do a lot of charity work in town, and it's just fun to get back and be a part of the community and visit with the fans and enjoy it.
So now I gotta ask you this. I don't know if you played with him at the end of his career before he retired, and you brought up his kid who got drafted by the Blues, Keith Tkachuk.
Yep.
Do you think the kids will surpass the daddy? Because the daddy, I watched his whole entire career from because I'm a 90s kid. So I watched their daddy's career all throughout his career. He was a beast. Do you think his kids will surpass him? Brady and
Matthew,
yeah.
So I did play with their dad for 5 years in St. Louis. I was on the team my rookie season in March when he got traded to the St. Louis Blues of March of 2001. Little Matthew and Brady were like 4 and 6 years old at the time, 4 and 7, 5 and 3, whatever the number is. They were around the rink all the time when they weren't in school. They're great kids. I've watched them grow up. And I think that both of them have the chance to be better than their dad. Matthew Tkachuk's one of the great talents in the National Hockey League, and he has a mixture of tenacity and ignorance, and he's a dirty player, but he's a great player, and he brings it every single night. And some of the between the legs stuff that he does is absolutely off the charts. You take a look at Brady in Ottawa. Matthews in Calgary was drafted by the Flames in 6th overall, and then Brady got taken by the Ottawa Senators a couple of years later, 4th overall. So he was actually the highest of the 3 that got drafted at 4th overall, and he's already the captain of the Ottawa Senators. Now they're a rebuilding team; they don't have a ton of players on there, and hopefully with their new coach they can move on. But I'll tell you right now, Brady's a hell of a corner piece to be building your hockey team with. So. Big Walt, love the guy. He's an absolute beauty. Love playing with him. The guy's got the horse legs. Like, he's just an absolute beast. Scored 500 plus goals. Like, the guy's a real deal. And was a heck of a tough player. Ended up, I don't know how many games he stood in front of the net on that power play, and with like 4 games in his career, he took a puck in the mouth and knocked out all his teeth. So kind of ironic that a guy battles that hard in net his whole career and then loses his teeth at the end of it. But great player. And the even crazier part, their younger sister, she's one of the best field hockey players in the country. So I think she goes to Virginia University, and she's one of the top players in the world. So the family is just an awesome family, good people. Chantel, Keith's wife, she's from Winnipeg, Manitoba. She's another wonderful lady. So love the family. Wish all the boys well, and I hope one day one of those Tkachuk boys gets to don a blue note himself.
And I'll leave you out on this. It's a 3-part question. The first part of the question is, out of your career, obviously you played with a Hall of Famer and you played against Hall of Famers. Any of them that you were able to talk to along the way that helped you in your career? The second part of the question is, obviously you're coaching. So what do you tell the young kids today how to get to where you were at in the NHL level? And the third part is, define your career in one word.
Damn. First question. I played with Al MacInnis, Chris Pronger, and I played against a lot of guys that are Hall of Famers. I would say that a lot of the guys I played against with didn't have a huge impact on my day-to-day. But when I take a look at what Chris Pronger and especially Al MacInnis, who I tell everybody is my favorite teammate of all time, the guy just is an incredible human, let alone hockey player and teammate. And he taught me every day how to be a pro and how to be better. And, I probably didn't listen to him as much as I should have. My hockey career might have been a little bit longer if I would have. But Al MacInnis is just one of my favorite humans of all time, and did so much for so many guys, and including Chris Pronger. When Chris Pronger got traded here in the early 90s for Brendan Shanahan, the city hated him. And, Al MacInnis helped Chris tremendously through his career and mentored him tremendously. So that'd probably be my answer there.
Okay.
Part 2 of the question, what was it again?
Since you're coaching younger kids today, what would you tell them that they want to get to your level?
I tell all the kids, I tell people this just in hockey, humanity, whatever. There's only 3 things in life that we have control over. Number 1, being a great teammate. Number 2, being coachable. And then number 3, working as hard as you possibly can. And you don't get to decide how much ice time you get. You don't get to decide who's on the power play or the penalty kill. You don't get to decide who's playing. You don't get to decide where you're traveling, where you're staying, what you're eating. All those things are brought to the table for you. So if you focus 100% of your energy on all 3 of those things, then you should be able to leave it all on the ice and leave it all in the gym and leave it all wherever it is that you are training and working out. So that's what I tell the kids. It's the little things that make you successful. And then to define my career in one word, lottery winner. I feel like I won the lottery.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't have said it any better. There you go. Perfect. Awesome.
Awesome, bud.
Well,
nice meeting you.
Exactly. I'll stay in touch with you. I'll send you the episode so you can share it. So this concludes episode number 82 with Reed Lowe. I'll stay in touch with you. It was fun. Thank you. I'll text you.
Good luck in your radio career. Keep grinding it out.
Definitely will do. And you
All right,
do the
buddy.
same. You do the same with your coaching.
Thanks, bud. See ya.
See ya.